Hi. Okay, this is the week.
Oh, maybe just going out again. I lost you, Chloe. Chloe, can you hear me?
Headset out of the jack. Can you hear me now?
Not really.
How about now?
Same problem, really low volume.
Let's try another port. How about now?
Now you're good.
I pulled the my foot pulled the U.
Oh, you just dropped out again.
And now I hit the mute button. Today is not going to be a good day. Okay, so finally getting started. There've been a few updates since last week. So the problem so as of this morning, I have released the VOLTLTHA Helm charts and the VOLTLTHA system tests. So if people need to go in and make changes, you can start doing them now. So the repositories were branched and tags for release. I'm still making a couple of version changes in chart YAML, but those should be done within the next hour. So most of this stuff is all done. So all of the Jenkins jobs for 2.11 basically have created a new set, just like we had the 2.8 LTS Jenkins jobs. Those are available now, so we'll be able to run those as well. For the BBSIM and VOLTCTL release, I'm hoping to get those out today. So what was going on with the problem? This goes back to a problem that Sercant reported a couple of months ago, that I think at the time it was either BBSIM or VOLTCTL was not being updated. We were stuck on version 1.7.6. Basically what we found is the releases that are being done right now, Jenkins goes through the motions. It actually tries to do the release. What we end up afterwards is a download directory that should be the release version that's only partially populated. We have the directory, we have source tarballs, but none of the binaries for VOLTCTL or BBSIM were uploaded to it. And that appears to be coming from the fact that GitHub has made an API change. There's a resource that you can use in GitHub called Discussions. One of the, so we were using an old script called GitHub release.sh that was handling the publishing to the GitHub endpoints. That script, it seems to be older, and it does not have the ability to pass extra arguments like this discussions field. So it's basically invalidated our old release script. I went poking around and I found a replacement command called GH. It's published by GitHub, and there's a lot more features in it. It's a lot easier to use in the older script. So I'm going through and trying to get that working in place of the old script. It's mostly in place. The only potential problem I'm expecting is possibly authentication, but hopefully that's a non-issue. Some of the fun with this is, since we're dealing with the endpoint within the release job, in order to put the new command in place and test it, you actually have to go through the full release each time. So if there's any syntax errors or things like that, it's just a really long cycle to try and push things out, but we're getting very close on that. I'm hoping it'll be finished today. For testing, as I mentioned, we have version 2.11 test jobs in Jenkins. So views have been created to be able to run the jobs. Those are the familiar 2.x tests or 2.8 tests that you see at the top of the Jenkins window. I also added a convenience folder called VOTLTHA TST that has both the 2.11 and 2.8 tests in them. it doesn't really change anything. It's just a new way, a different way to look at them. Like you can, if you click on VOLT, come on, refresh. So if you click on VOLTLTHA T8, the 2.8 link, you'll get the normal 2.8 tests, and they're up here in the Jenkins views where they normally are. So if everybody wants to just try that out and see if you like it, we can keep it. If not, we can get rid of it. Let me see. So one question I have, we're going to keep the 2.8 tests and folders around for a little while, just in case we have to refer to anything or if we need to rerun old tests. They'll still be around to be used. Does anybody have a date in mind where we could permanently retire the 2.8 test suites? The only reason I'm asking is there's some repositories, there's code in the Jenkins jobs, and there's some pieces sprinkled around that as of the 2.11 release, we can clean up and simplify a few things by getting rid of the old 2.8 answers because they're no longer needed. Things change between 2.8 and 2.9, and we can start cleaning up the code base. But I'm just curious if anybody has a date in mind when we could actually turn it off and start doing that cleanup. Or if it's too early, we can wait and think about it later.
The official date, I think, Joy, was January 1st, because the LTS supports, I mean, we give support for 1.5 hour LTS, so it should be, January 1st.
Okay. Well, there was some interest in having the 2.8 jobs available, I think, for some of the community tests. If we want to cut it off as of January 1st, I'm fine with that. I just didn't know if people are still going to need them. It seemed like there was a need to use them.
I don't have answers for that. If operators do not want, especially from us, to keep 2.8 for a bit longer, I don't think anyone else needed.
Okay. I'll track down. I'll see if I can track down who asked about it before and just see if they asked directly if they need it then. So a while back, Sirkan asked a question, basically what was involved with the VOLTLTHA Helm charts and when we were releasing components. And I didn't have an answer at the time, but we do now. The short answer is, if we need to deploy new components, the easiest thing to do for right now is ask until we can get the process fully documented and make it easier for people to use. But right now, there's some extra steps involved when you're releasing components. We actually publish content out to Maven Central, and there's a couple of extra steps after the Jenkins release job runs where you have to manually go in and initiate publishing out to the other services. And there's not really an automated way to do that right now. So we can get it out there. The easy thing to do is ask. Let me see. And the other thing is, some of the components, when we update them, there's a hierarchy. It starts down at the VOLTLTHA ONO, or it starts down in with the ONOS components, if I could talk. So we rebuild some of the versions from the lower level components, and then there's a whole hierarchy where you have to, after you rebuild the lower components, you go in and rebuild the higher ones until you get up into the VOLTLTHA pieces. So when you start getting into that, there's also XML files that you have to start updating, the requirements, XML and POM XML. And I think there were some chart dependencies as well. It's just, there's a lot of stuff to track down right now to do the updates. So if you need anything updated and released, the easiest thing to do short term is just ask and we can do that. It's not a big deal. So VOLTLTHA Helm charts, just an FYI. Well, this is going back to something that was brought up before. So we're adding lint targets in to do a lot of checking, checking for content in the system. Some of these were deployed by Andrea Matteo. Some of it's just sugar wrapping it, making the tools easier to use or making them locally available. But if you're modifying Helm charts or modifying files in VOTLTHA Helm charts, there's two commands that you can use locally. You don't need a Docker. You don't necessarily need a Docker image to use these. You can run make lint-chart and you can run lint-helm. And this will run the lint helm checking program. And it'll also run the tool that we're syntax checking Helm charts with that previously was only triggered by a Jenkins job. So you basically have the checking functionality that was in Jenkins available locally if you want to screen your changes before you put them, check them in. There's also a makefile help target. You can see what other targets are available. Now, just digging through some of the problems, there are some cryptic version errors that show up when trying to clean up some of the Helm charts. I started a wiki page with some suggestions on things that come up. It's just ways, to try and shortcut having to research these things to find out what was going on. Like one of them, we were getting a null pointer evaluation, and that was actually in a Helm chart that was dependent on another Helm chart where a port was removed because it wasn't needed in the original chart, but we were actually using it through a dependent. So the error was basically indirectly triggered by the port removal, but this is one place you can look for suggestions for fixes. I guess that's the end of what I have, and you're probably getting tired of me talking. If anybody has anything they'd like to bring up, we can go over the on-demand OLT alarms again, or the floor is pretty much open if anybody would like to add anything or ask questions.
Yeah, pretty much like as last time, I would request everyone to review the ONT alarms and also the error handling cases in VOTLTHA. So I have received a few comments from Maher and Sarkan. I have replied to those. So the adapter part, I think so, Maher, Sarkan, you didn't get a chance to have a look into yet, the error handling cases. So if we can prioritize that so that we can take up the implementation, that would be good.
Ablash, I checked, as you said, some part of the error cases document. I'll finalize the reviewing this week, okay, in a few days. And put my comments on the rest of the document.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Joy, now which repos are open to development, I mean, to let patching?
Let me see. For just today, you can go in and start checking code in tomorrow. I just need to go through and check the version strings, the version file strings in the repository, and just make sure that everything's been changed over to the -dev versions of it. If you need to check code into the repositories, feel free to check the version string. If it's, if there's a -dev suffix on the version string, feel free to go ahead and check things in. If there's not, just modify the version string first and change it to the, increment probably the major number, then suffix it with -dev, and then it'll be ready to go.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Does anybody have? Are there any other topic items people would like to bring up? Well, I guess we're going to have a short meeting this week. Okay. Well, I guess thanks everybody. We can finish up for this week. As I mentioned, as of tomorrow, you definitely will be able to start checking code into the repositories. And today I'm just going to be going through checking things, make sure the version strings are all straight, and finish debugging the BBSIM and the VOLTCTL releases. But we should be good to go.
Good work getting it, getting things wrapped up, Joey. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Well, I'll see everybody next week then.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Yeah.